like to see a video on that, I just mentioned the power of the second house hack. And so in the beginning of this video, I'm going to break down the benefits of the second house hack, the reason it did it in the order that I did it in. And during this intro, I'm going to give you time to get some questions into the chat. This live stream will go on for as long as the questions do, hour and a half, 2 hours. I have set a goal. You can see it in the chat. If it wasn't for house hacking, I'd still be working. That is a fact. That is not my opinion. That is something I'm aware of. Most of my life, I didn't make a lot of money. 60,000 was kind of the cap in most jobs I've had till the last couple of years before I retired, when the owners of the company I worked at realized that I made more money off my rentals than I was making at work. So my pay started going up as a way to try to trick me into staying. And then I got offered $2 million golden handcuffs, and I still walked away because of the power of financial freedom, which for me came from house hacking. I didn't start investing until I was 40. Wasn't in a good position. I got divorced, found out about $89,000 in bad debt in my name I didn't know existed until the divorce. Got laid off from law enforcement because of the 2008 housing crash. I was a single parent with 3 kids we're all picky eaters. So I've taken an oath to never cook again. Another goal to be financially free so that you can eat out all the time. So I had a lot of bad debt. I started teaching at a CDL school making $17 an hour. So I didn't have a lot of, thank you, Michelle, for the super chat. Much appreciated. I didn't have a lot of money to invest. I had a lot of bad debt. I didn't have a good debt to income ratio. I was starting in a new field. I was in a good position. So this stresses why house hacking was so important for me. I didn't have tens of thousands of dollars extra in a year to invest, and I didn't have decades for compound interest to do its thing. So stocks weren't the best option for me. I wanted financial freedom long before 59 and a half. So retirement accounts weren't good for me. So I picked rentals, but it's really hard to get into real estate. There is a barrier to entry, right? Self-education, the risk involved, dealing with tenants, toilets, and termites, choosing a market, picking a strategy, like all these things that are just kind of ethereal when we're first starting out. And you slowly nail them down as you take in content, read, listen to audiobooks, podcasts. And I thought if I bought a property every 2 years, in 10 years, I'd have five rentals that were cash flowing, would get me either financially free or really close to financially free within a decade. Single family houses don't cash flow in my area. So for the first year, I kind of wasted some time studying them. But I was also saving for the first house hack. And the reason I did this in the order that I did is the first house hack was a duplex. The second house hack was a fourplex. So I want to cover the power of the second one because I don't know that in my position, I could have started with a fourplex. So I went for the duplex first because I found a deal, right? That's the two things that tell you when to buy. One is, are you ready? Two is, did you find a great deal? So I found a deal on the MLS. It's $300,000. And I did an owner occupied 5% down. So 5% down on a duplex. The reason I wanted to go conventional is because it's easier to get it accepted. FHA is a little more challenging. And I wanted to save my VA loan for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't want to be 100% levered. Two, I wanted to have the VA loan in my back pocket so that if I found the perfect deal in the future when I didn't have a lot of funds, I have an option. And FHA is not designed for a first-time home buyer. That's designed for somebody with bad credit, which I had good credit, and it's designed for somebody with a bad debt to income ratio, which I had. My debt to income ratio wasn't great. So I didn't want to use FHA. So 5% down conventional on a duplex was great. On a triplex or a fourplex, when I started investing, 2013, closing on that first duplex, conventional loans were 20% down, even owner occupied on a fourplex or a triplex. So FHA looked better because you could still go 3.5% down. But your very first rental, your first house hack, having 3 tenants all at once, because you need to save the down payment, but you also need to save the reserves. And the less you put down, the more the mortgage is going to be, especially when you go for a larger thing like a triplex or a fourplex. So you're going to have 3 to 6 months worth of money set aside. So for me, that would have been around $9,000 in just reserves. Whereas with the duplex, mortgage payment was around 1,500. So I could have 4,500 in reserves. $15,000 down is a 5% down payment. So the first house hack was $15,000 down. In those 2 years when I was starting out, when I first started saving in those 2 years, I was able to save side hustle overtime about $28,000 or so. So that gave me the 15,000 for the down payment, gave me the reserves, kind of a buffer where I felt comfortable, and money for immediate repairs. But it also took 2 years because I had to work in the new industry. I had changed jobs from law enforcement to teaching at a CDL school. So I needed the 2 years to have consistent work in the field that I was in to make myself bankable, work on my credit score. Debt to income ratio, I didn't fix at this point. How I got around the debt to income ratio problem was I kept the house in the divorce, right? I'm good at keeping custody of kids and keeping the house. I'm never good at keeping a girl around. It should tell you a lot about me. I moved from my house into an apartment and rented the house out. So when I was in the apartment, rent was about $1,500 a month. The house didn't cash flow the first year. I actually lost money because I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I'd replace my income with rentals with no education whatsoever because I'm a genius. Nope. Second year, I cash flowed. It helped me save up money towards that place I was going to buy. So rental income on my tax returns for 2 years, even though I was losing money the first year, got me around my debt to income ratio because the lender was able to look at the cash flow from the house and the cash flow from the other side of the duplex I was buying. This might have made buying the fourplex easier because my debt to income ratio might have even looked better because I would have had 3 units in my debt to income ratio. But with the duplex, I purchase it. My housing cost from $1,500 a month drops down to $300 a month. So with $300 a month, I'm able to save more. It's about $1,200 a month increase to your savings. So since I'm mostly making my money through W-2 income, it was more because I didn't even have to pay taxes on the money that I was saving. I would have to earn $1,400 or $1,500 a month to have $1,200 to invest. But since it was a reduction in an expense, I just got the $1,200 added to my savings rate. So now I'm paying $300 a month to live in the duplex, but I'm getting appreciation on the house and the duplex, the first house hack. The $15,000 down, right? That was my down payment. Now I had some closing costs, right? Title, escrow. I don't know if I had escrow expenses on that one, but you have title, had to pay for an appraisal, pay for an inspection. Make ready costs were in the first month, probably $500 maybe, because I put in lights and locks, and I did a bunch of drywall work to my unit, but it was all me learning how to do it and watching YouTube videos. iHandy, great place to learn how to do drywall repairs. iCandy, iHandy, yeah. And so it really wasn't a lot of expense because drywall materials are super cheap. It's the skilled labor, which I'm not, to put it in that actually truly matter. So we'll get to all these super chats in just a second. We'll go through each one first. I appreciate each one. They help, and they will go towards the goal we are doing tonight. The squirrel ran away with Emperor's New Groove. Where the groove? So I'm in the duplex, reduced my housing cost. I'm now gaining appreciation on the house and the duplex. I put $15,000 down in the down payment on the duplex. I did not spend $15,000. I moved it. It was in the bank. I took it out and I put it in the down payment on the duplex. It's still there. It's still mine. In the future, if I sell or cash out refinance or take out a home equity line of credit, that's my money sitting in there. It's just not in the bank anymore. But now it's making me $1,200 a month because I was paying more living in the apartment. So I have the duplex. Here's where the power of the second house hack comes in. I didn't move into the duplex and then 1 year later, which I could have, move into another one, and then 1 year later move into another one. I stayed in that duplex for the first 8 years of investing. It's not true, 7 years of investing. So I closed on the duplex 2 years later because now I've got cash flow from the house, making more money at my job. Side hustle still going. Rent increases. I figured out the binder strategy. So the other side of the duplex, their rent went up. That first year I was paying 300. By the second and third year, I was living for free, and I might have even. Oh yeah, I was getting paid to live there by the fourth year. So 2016, 17, I started getting paid to live there. But in 2020, now I've got 7 years of owning rentals experience. I actually have more with the single family house that I rented out, but those first year, I don't count that. So I've got about 7 years with that duplex. 7 years where the rent on the other unit went up. I had tenant change over there. I think that was the inherit a house person. So rent increase, then about 5% increase every couple of years. My second house hack was a fourplex. Now, the reason I was more comfortable with the fourplex now is because I had the cash flow from the single family house, a duplex. 2 years later, I got another duplex, and then another duplex, and then a year and a half later, another duplex. So I had 7 rental units that were cash flowing. I'm getting paid to live where I'm at. My debt to income ratio is fixed because all the worst debt is gone. And at this point, I think all of the bad debt by 2020 was gone. So I've got zero debt by 2020. I've got cash flow, making more money at my job. This is when the owner started realizing with just 7 rentals, I was making more, maybe not more at that time than I was making at my job, but I was making more because I told everybody I'm making more money off my rentals now in 2020 than I was as a police officer before I got laid off and the 2008 housing crash. So people started to know the rentals are paying me money. So I might have started making more money in 2020, 2019 probably. I buy the fourplex. Now here's why I wouldn't have started with the fourplex. It would have taken me too long to save, right? Because now you can do 5% down on duplex, triplex, or fourplex. Ever since November 18th, 2023, conventional loans will do 5% down up to 4 units. I still have the VA loan, but I like conventional loans because mortgage insurance automatically goes away on conventional loans if you put down less than 20%. With the fourplex, I put down 20%. So $590,000 purchase, basically twice as much as the duplex, right? Kind of tracks, right? 300,000 versus 590. And it was $109,000 down. I had some make ready. This place actually needed a roof. So there was more expenses going out. Here's the thing that would have stopped me from getting a fourplex. And I talked about this earlier, the amount of reserves you have, right? The reserves on a $1,500 mortgage, 3 times that's 4,500. But the reserves on a $2,500 or a $2,800 a month mortgage, because interest rates had come down. That first one was like 8% interest when I bought it. The fourplex was like 4, beginning of 2020, before rates went down. I would have had to have, $9,000 on top of the down payment, on top of it needing some repairs. So the barrier to getting a fourplex first was duplex was easier, less risky, less money needed to be saved, a quicker turnaround to get into a house hack. And it was the deal that I found. So I move into the fourplex. I move in because interest rates are only 4, the price is only double what the duplex was. Rents have gone up a lot. I start that first year in the fourplex. I move in, I'm paid $1,700 a month in profit, right? So I paid the mortgage. I set aside money for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. All utilities are covered, everything, and I'm living there. I'm getting paid $1,700 a month. That would be really cool on its own to buy a house hack where you're paid $1,700 a month to live there. But that's not the power of the second house hack. The really great thing is when I bought the duplex, that first house hack, I bought it. When I run the numbers on a house hack, it's like I didn't live there. So both units rented out, current rents, what I get at least at whatever my return is. Mine in my area was a 10% return. That doesn't mean that's right for your area. You want to study area average, figure out what is, most deals are going to lose money, but the deals that would make money, what's their average return? And then you want to look for something better than that. When I started, I was finding 7 or 8%. So I shot for 10. Well, that was year 1 rents. I lived in it from 2013 to 2020. So from time of purchase, the other unit's gone up some, but the unit I move out of was rented out at a significantly higher amount. So that first year moving out, I'm getting $1,700 paid to live in the fourplex. I rent out the duplex. Profit. So setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, I make $800 a month. That in 2020. And the reason for that was we were starting the global pandemic. There was an eviction moratorium starting. The world had been shut down, and I think I went for too low a rent. 2022, end of 2021, beginning of 2022, binder strategy, that tenant now makes a lot more money. So I think I started low because of everything that was going on. So I moved from one side of town to the other, from my duplex to the fourplex. The increase in my income from just this one purchase was 1,700 from the fourplex, 800 from the duplex. Just because I'm willing to go to work, call a company and say, hey, here's the address everything's at. Here's the door code. Here's the address and unit number of where I'm moving to and the door code. Move it all over there. And so I go to work, and like from the duplex, I go to the work in the morning, and the fourplex, I go home at night. All my stuff's there. Cost me like $130. Right? I found a company that does $90 an hour, and they're not that far apart. But I boxed it all up and everything. So it was pretty easy to move. So I get all that moved over there. Just because I'm willing to do that, box my stuff up and have it unboxed at the new place when I get there. $2,500 a month increase to my income. Tax, I want to say tax free, because while I did put the 109,000 down, which is an astronomical number to me when I started out, I never would have thought of having that much money. I start a depreciation schedule on the fourplex, right? $590,000 purchase. I don't know what the building's worth, 450, 460,000, whatever their estimate was. I started a depreciation schedule of that. So I put in 100,000-ish, and I'm able to depreciate over 27 and a half years, $450,000. I'm now depreciating both sides of the duplex that I moved out of, because when you live there, you only depreciate one side, you occupy the other. So depreciation write-off ability goes up from both moves, right? The unit that I move out of and the 3 units I'm not living in. How many people can move, just change where they're living, and increase their income by $2,500 a month? That's the power of the second house hack to me. Now, acquiring rentals with a 20 or 25% down payment conventional loan, if you make a lot of money, can make it to where you don't need the house hack, right? Because you can buy the properties with the down payment. But I also get a better interest rate because it's owner occupied. Here's the other benefit to moving from the duplex to the fourplex, moving the house hack, which when I moved out of the fourplex, I did the same thing. A lot of people fall into the trap of homeowners insurance is expensive. Well, I don't pay that insurance. Tenants do. Except when you live there, the insurance insures your personal effects, which in most of the places I lived cost about as much as the insurance. So if the insurance was $400 a month for the policy, it'd be $900 while I lived there. Well, when I moved from the duplex to the fourplex, the insurance went down about $400 a month because I'm no longer insuring my personal effects. It goes up a little because it's not owner occupied, but it comes down a lot because you're not insuring personal effects. Then I move into the fourplex. I live there for 2020, 2022, 2023, I move out. So I'm there 3 years. Insurance drops. With an increase on that property, insurance drops because I move out into the new duplex, which is my house hack I started when I retired. So I've house hacked 3 times. It's not required. I'm doing it in retirement in this new one for a couple of reasons. One, it was a self-funded burr, but 2, I want to travel and spend a couple of months in Portugal or Florida or Thailand and have somebody living on the property. So I know if there's a leak or an Amazon package gets delivered, needs picked up, right? So I've wanted to continue house hacking into retirement. The increase to cash flow, the ease to purchase, right? When you own or occupy, lower down payment, lower interest rate, the added depreciation schedule. And now the levered appreciation. The duplex I purchased for $300,000 in 2013 is now worth about maybe 730. It's probably worth more than that, but I always like to go conservative. The fourplex, the second house hack. Now I've purchased some other ones along the way too, and they've appreciated, which that doesn't suck. But I paid $590 in 2020. What has happened to real estate since 2020? Every time I bring this up, somebody, not in the live, but it's usually because you have to be a subscriber to talk. That's how I keep the bots out, right? So we don't get so much porn advertisement in the chat. And since 2020, the state that I'm in has seen 19% appreciation one year, 24% appreciation. It was 31% appreciation in King County in Seattle, where I say don't invest. Maybe I'm wrong. There's a lot of other reasons. So massive appreciation. It's not on the $109,000 I purchased the fourplex with. It's on the 590, which was low because it needed a roof, right? So I did some value add there. Probably would have been worth 7 or 800,000 with a roof on it. Was listed poorly, one bad photo showing a big block. And in Washington, a lot of fourplexes are just big squares and they're not worth a lot. Around to the Google Earth view on the other side, street view, and this is actually 4 townhomes, fourplex. So now it's worth 1.4 conservatively, more than that. So almost tripled the value of what I bought. So I took 109,000. That's appreciated to over $1 million, probably right at $1 million if I sell with agent fees and capital gains and depreciation recapture. 10x the money in 5 years. Right, we're coming up on January 2025, so it's about 5 years to 10x the down payment because the appreciation is on the whole amount. I'm also getting appreciation on the other house hack. So as you increase the rentals, you're not just increasing your cash flow. This is where I hear so many people go, well, if I pay off my mortgage, then the principal and interest payments come to me instead of the lender, and I'll make more money. Yes, don't start a new depreciation schedule. You don't start more levered appreciation. Your cash flow will not be the same. There is a point where paying off mortgages might make more sense. But in growth mode, it's the way to shoot yourself in the foot. I hope this kind of clearly laid out the power of the second house hack for me. And every time I talk about, look what's happened in real estate since 2013 to 2020, because we were recovering from the 2008 housing crash. And then from 2020 till now, because we've had a pandemic, eviction moratorium, forbearance ending, interest rates tripling, building a decade from 2010 to 2020 being about a fifth of what it was. It was 26 million in the 90s, 27 million from 2000 to 2010. It's 5.6 million from 2010 to 2020, right? We're like a fifth of what we need. People say, oh, it must have been so great. You got it in the right time. And I'm like, oh, you're pretending the next 10 years aren't going to happen. You think inflation's going to go away. Well, one, if it does, if let's say inflation goes down, that doesn't mean things cost less. It means they don't cost more as fast. You are going to be alive in 10 years. You should start investing like it. I should have recorded this to put as an outro somewhere else, but that's the intro that people will only get if they came to this long live stream. Go to the super chats first. You see the goal. The goal was if we get 10 super chats, I'm going to give away an audible. Words are hard. I'm not even drinking the water that makes my eyes water yet tonight. And the way it works is the person who wins, who's here in the chat today. So sorry, Futureland, if you're watching this in Futureland. We connect through email. You tell me the email that your Audible account is with. I purchase the book and I send it to you. Pick any book you want. I would prefer it was finance related, one rental at a time, 15 conversations with real estate millionaires, not just because I narrated them, or Rich Dad Poor Dad, or Richest Man in Babylon, or something. But it can be a John Grisham novel or Stephen King. I don't care. Your book, I buy. The super chats. Here we go. She got Michelle, which I talked to. Thank you for that. It's appreciated. Jason, thank you. And I'll just check to make sure that there are no questions that I miss here. Chester, appreciate that. Let's go. What's your favorite Dionism? Hopefully, maybe people answered that. Alive in 10 years is probably it. But really, for me, even though I don't say it in videos anymore, it's but not today. I've explained in one video why I used to say that so often, but that's my favorite personally. Cash flow is free, but not today. There you go. Old guy, Frank, thank you. Why I think LLCs are so valuable. Oh, yeah. That is a dividend Dave level dad joke right there. If you have partners, they are invaluable. If you have a lender who requires you, Frank, I can turn it around. This is table spins like a lazy Susan. If your lender requires an LLC, they're valuable. Wendy, howdy, Prada. I think that's the first super chat I've seen. Thank you for that. Oscar and Wendy here going for the second house hack. We house hacked in Pittsburgh 3 months ago. Now we're going to Fort Lauderdale. Salute Mikey. Nicey. That's cool. A second house hack. Pittsburgh sounds like a real place. I love it. Text from a handyman. I got to answer. Okay, I'll call you in a bit. Probably 2 hours. Sorry. That's how hard being a landlord is. Ermagerd. I don't know how I can take this. I'm curious to hear about the house hacks, how you got them, how you find them. Uh, and I was thinking of starting the video, but it would have taken too long to break down what house hacking is, because so many people, when you hear house hacking and they're not in the one rental at a time sphere, they immediately go, oh, that's renting out rooms in your house, right? Which I've done. First time didn't call it house hacking. Dennis, thank you. Edumacation, because words are hard. Exactly. Cool. I think I make sure I'm not missing any here. Dan, please stand by for the best haircut in real estate, the infamous, stupendous, and always jovial Dion. Am I always jovial? Yeah. One of the best things about having PTSD is that you don't have levels of gradation to your emotions. you, no one ever sees the anger until the switch is flipped. So most people think you never get angry, except for the one guy. They find out. Uh, Not to make light of PTSD, but if you have it, you understand gallows humor, and that's why it exists. Frank, howdy. I'm here for the party from lovely Watsonville, California. Nice. Wayne, Dividend Dave, Michelle, howdy. Good to see y'all. Jason, hello and happy Tuesday. Exactly. Freedom Works. Good evening. Dennis Meowdy. Jared and Buzztune. Speaking of Mikey, howdy. Jared, I like your updates with how your, I want to say unique strategy, but I'm sure there's other people doing it, is going. Money. Good evening. Thank you for your content. We are learning so much. Question: what is the one most wonderful thing about your life that you have not yet shared with us? Oh man. I shared some stuff during the one that I did with Lumberjack Landlord and we took down. One most wonderful thing about my life I haven't shared with you. I've talked about my 3 kids. Of course, they are amazing. Um, every parent says that, of course. It's the one most wonderful. That's a hard one. I'm like, good, great question, Money. It's wonderful that I haven't shared with you. I've shared being a flying spaghetti monster pirate minister and doing weddings for free. I've shared the open relationship thing. I've shared traveling to all the countries on videos in every country I've traveled to, pretty much. It's a wonderful thing about my life. Oh, it's way too early for an overshare. It is my goal to keep the number of people I have been intimate with to be a bigger number than the number of people I have unalived. And with some of my jobs, that's been difficult. Interpret that however you want. I'll come up with something better later. Rich, howdy. Joe, my first live. Love watching and learning. Glad you're here. This is open question time. You can ask anything, and I generally, you just saw, I will answer anything. Hopefully, the answers are helpful for financial freedom and making work optional. Cash flow string. Howdy. Chester. Looks like yours with third. There you go. Laura, good to see you here. Got the but not today. It's hard to choose. Both options are grow. Yeah. My daughter's quote. It's really hard to choose, make a decision when both outcomes are positive. Jason, just going to say thanks for what you do for us, but that went too fast. Awesome. Ryan, howdy. Glad I can finally attend live. Thoughts on acquiring rental properties via subject to given interest rates. Live in high cost of living area and would likely have trouble having anything cash flowing 6 to 7% payments. So cash flowing with 6 to 7% payments, you can pay 20% interest and find a cash flowing deal. Eventually, rents, price, rates, they balance out to where it makes sense or people can't sell. So don't worry about the interest rates. They're a factor, not a determining factor. What I did for the high interest rates, right, I expanded my market out. I started watching days on market and making low offers. So get the offer low enough on something that sat long enough to make the interest rate make sense for cash flow. It's not going to be easy. I found probably 4 deals when I was in hunt mode to find the last place I purchased that made sense. Sent one to Frank. It made sense for me, did not make sense for him with property management. Since I invest locally, I don't have that concern. I prefer the high cost of living area, right? More cash flow, less units. So a couple of these things you're saying here line up with my thing. I did a video with Pace Morby on one rental at a time, and I have some friends who are friends with Pace, and I have heard that he hates my ever loving guts. Now, there's 2 reasons. One, I actually said, because this is how I talk, I said it to his face, not behind his back. I said, and I guess I used too strong a verbiage. He's got to have thicker skin than that. I said, it makes me sick to my stomach that guys like Pace exist. Now, out of context, sounds kind of rude, but in context, it is, I'm the lazy investor that took a decade to reach financial freedom. Pace is what you call a motivated hard charger that wanted to do it fast and let it become everything and invest and grow and has a bigger portfolio, makes hundreds of thousands of zillions of dollars more than I ever will, that I ever want to. I wanted the right amount of cash flow from the least amount of units. So we have different goals. And I was clarifying that based on my goal, I don't want to do it the way he does. So he doesn't like me. That's the first reason he doesn't like me. Second reason he doesn't like me is because I've said in many videos, when you have interest rates coming down and home prices coming up, it's actually pretty easy to do subject to, because the lender looks and goes, they're selling the house with a 5% mortgage to this person. And if we purchased it right now in 2020, 2021, the new buyer would have a 3% interest rate and the bank would lose money. So prices going up, our asset is safe with the amount of leverage that we have on it. And the interest rate, we get a higher interest rate if it stays at the original rate. No bank really cares. But as of 2022 and beyond, when interest rates started going up and they could be higher, so you have a subject to deal where somebody refinanced in 2020 to a 3 or a 4% interest rate. If you buy it subject to now, you're buying a 3 or 4% interest rate. And the bank is looking, if we call this and they have to buy and have to find a way to qualify, well, we'll get that 7% interest rate now. We'll double the amount of interest we're going to make on this loan if we call the due on sale clause. So the likelihood of subject to working with prices not going down, but we only went up 5% last year where we were getting 19 and 24% years before. So, right, so it's leveling off. It's not plateaued, but it's leveling off. And interest rates have doubled or tripled. Pace's thing is subject to and Gator lending and a bunch of other things, right? And HGTV or whatever. So he's doing fine. But it's kind of like when I say anything negative about crypto. If you have Bitcoin or an altcoin or anywhere, you're investing in crypto or you want to, whatever you want to do, whatever format you're looking at, crypto has value because people value it. So if somebody says something negative about crypto, you get pounced on in the comments because people are like, oh no, it's the greatest thing ever. It's the best performing asset of the last decade. So I'm not saying it's not, but it has value because people value it. So if you say anything negative about it, those channels get bombarded. Since subject to has a market, those words are hard. There are aspects of the market that can make subject to viable and make it challenging. If somebody says anything against it, it can negatively impact his income. I understand why Pace doesn't like me. So subject to is great. Probably more likely to have it called now. So have an exit strategy that includes the due on sale clause happening. Don't commit fraud and just say, oh, just don't tell the lender, because how's that working out for the short sale lady that's looking at 30 years? I'm not saying that it's related, but I'm just saying never commit fraud. Wealth building journey took back a message to make me lose sleep and wonder forever and ever what was actually said. Audiobook talk. There you go. You got options. Finally caught alive. Michelle, somebody, old guys LLC question. Perfect. And I avoided the rant, I think. No idea. JMC, howdy. Aloha, Mark. Good to see you here. Bill, howdy. Angel R, looking like an angel. Yes, this is the new Henley. We'll see. I don't do white very well. I'm always everything. You go paddleboarding, you get dirt and moss on everything. So white don't last too long. We'll see. JMC question. Can you tell us how you manage your rentals when you are on vacation? Let's say if someone decides to snowbird. Okay. So it's pretty much what I'm doing. My goal was to be this entire winter in Thailand. But anybody who knows my story, watches my content, understands that my brother's going through some stuff. So I ain't traveling until he's done. And I got some other things going on. So I'll be going to Thailand for the winter. So it's a good, I'll be snowboarding. And I don't go to northern Thailand in the winter, like Chiang Mai. That's more of a summer thing or warm weather thing. But I'll be down, but not going to Pattaya. If you've been there, that's not my thing. Koh Tao, Koh Phanong, Phuket for the first time. But these are warmer climates. So I'm snowboarding out of the country. It's been, I want to say 2018 was the last time I think I personally had to go to a rental. It was the guy passes away, and I probably didn't even have to go. I just wanted to. So I have gone to rentals and filmed videos. I've interacted with handymen where they could have just FaceTimed, showed me videos, get the work done. I could do lease signings with Hemlane, with an agent if I want to, through emails if I want to. So I don't have to go to the properties like that. So I'm using Hemline for the ease of having a leasing agent go sign if I don't have somebody who would do it, or if Thumbtack fails me on finding a handyman, I can use their version of it. The reason I can snowbird and self-manage, and this is to be clear, when Millennial Mike started investing in Gary, Indiana, he should have started with property management like he did. That's the right thing to do. He didn't have the infrastructure, the contractors, the handyman, the other investors. He hadn't built that network, right? So he could probably self-manage his properties now with very little challenge. I invested locally, and I made several investor friends where I will go and help and recently serve eviction papers for somebody just because they don't have to pay a service fee. I live in the area. We'll go have lunch or something, or help give advice or build a binder with somebody like Michelle. And you build that network of people. And then I hire several contractors off of Thumbtack, get your handyman and contractors lined up, know which ones like plumbing, electric, flooring, paint, whatever, know their specialties. Hire them for small jobs and treat them really well. Tip often or every time, usually. I usually time my tips and I say, hey, I want you to do this. If it's done in 5 days, you're going to get your tip. If it takes longer than 5 days, the tip starts to get smaller. So you time lock your gratuity. But I have a list of handyman and contractors so that when I'm traveling, a lot of times the tenants have interacted in group chats with me and plumbers or me and electricians. And so when they reach out and they say, hey, the dishwasher stopped working, I'll just put them in the group chat and I'll go, hey, Ken, can you go take care of this? And then with private text, Ken, I'll go, I've went to Lowe's. These are the three I'm looking at. These are the Lowe's close. It takes like 5 minutes to use the app and say, this is the Lowe's closest to that rental. These are the ones they have in stock. Go pick this up, paying for their time going to Lowe's and shopping. And they install it, or whatever the thing is, right? So it's all handled through the texts or emails that I've built up through the years. So now, self-managing locally, I don't have to be here. I haven't had to be here since before 2020, at least. It would be really hard to start that from zero. Like buy a rental and take off for 3 months. Buy a rental, get to know the tenants, get your leases in place, make sure you've got tenant stability, get your handyman and contractors in place, have your other investors in the area, and then traveling becomes a lot easier. Cash flow is free. Every time someone hits the like button, an angel gets its wings. That's actually one of my Dionisms in another chats. I said that in mine. Windy. I got a 12% in Pittsburgh triplex, but I have one apartment empty for 2 months. Winter is hard. Yeah, so finding tenants in certain areas based on weather. So you have to understand real estate is local. So when I say things like I prefer my leases to end in winter because I have just the same amount of luck finding a rent on Christmas Day as I would in July 4th, that's a Northwest Pacific thing. That is not a Boston thing. It doesn't sound like it's a Pittsburgh thing. Winter can be challenging. Wendy, if you want to email me your listing, I could take a look and think sometimes it's the verbiage where I don't know how what your experience is, and maybe you don't need my help. It could be, as owners, we talk age of building, square footage, and tenants are more worried about access to commuter areas, parks, colleges, hospitals in the area. Order of your pictures can make a big difference. So if you want me to take a look at it, I'll look at the listing and see if there's something I would suggest. Bruce R. Howdy. Second year in your duplex. Congratulations. Nice. All-nighter hider is here. We can start now. Dennis, if house hacking is next to impossible, what are your thoughts on using the VA loan to buy a house, stay there for a year, buy another, rent? That was my actual goal, was to do that. So here's what I would do, Dennis. When you say next to impossible, is that because there's no small multifamily for sale in your area, or because you have a spouse, really young kids, you're just not comfortable with it? I would look at houses with ADUs. And here's the problem, and I don't think I've found the way to articulate this clearly in videos yet. When we think of ADUs, we think of Derek, that ADU guy, building, optimizing, knowing what size to make for the best rents so to get the best yield. Or we think, what can I build in my area, or what houses with ADUs are available? Because an ADU is generally the ADU, the accessory dwelling unit, is behind the primary house. It's less square footage than the primary house. Some areas it has a limit to the square footage. It's looked at that way. But in a lot of areas, based on the age of buildings, there are ADUs that's literally two 5-bedroom houses on one property that's just never been divided. I bought a house with an ADU. I don't know which one's which. There's a duplex and a 2,200 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house on one property. Somehow that was listed as house with ADU. If you live there and you go house hacking is not possible, maybe you live in the house and you rent out the duplex. The separate fenced yards, 35 feet away. It's not even touching. It's like having neighbors, except you get to screen them. But yeah, I would definitely, I don't know about the VA loan every time because I don't like being 100% levered. I'd start saving down payments and buying single family houses if that was what was going to work for you. My plan was really, I was in a house. I understood that I was going to save for the 2 years, get the rental income, get the down payment, buy a house, live there as long as I could until I phase the down payment and buy another one. And in 10 years, have 5 houses, right? But in Washington State, single family houses don't cash flow. Still never seen one. The one I have, I bought in 2000, didn't rent it out until 2011. So I had it for 10 years before renting it out and lost money the first year. So that no single family here for me. All right, Jared, 63 watching and only 20 likes. Angels need their wings. There's too many atheists tonight. All-nighter hider. I was playing mod on another channel. Get rid of prawn. There you go. You got to tell them to set it to subscriber count only. If I take a poll, do people like the subscriber method where you have to be a subscriber for 5 minutes to cut out the bots? I should probably ask this in a non-live though, so people can answer. If you're watching this in Futureland, leave a comment. What would you rather have? Everybody can comment or just subscribers? Michelle, Miter, thanks. John, howdy. Thank you. PE turned RE, howdy. Got the ick on me. Considered in talking with current brokers about getting my license. Ooh, nice. Real estate license? You have the personality for it. You're talking to me though. I assume CDL license. CDL license, ATM machine. That don't make no sense. Patrick, howdy. Thanks for consistently offering value to the community. I'm happy to do it. I look forward to Tuesdays. I hope at least one other person looks forward to Tuesdays. On your 4th, Rich Hilarious, awesome. Is that the Ricky that I'm supposed to build the binder with? I got an email recently. Hopefully that if it's you, reach out again. Bruce, howdy. All right, Jared, my version of house hacking is a bit different. Definitely is. Ricky, my advice for folks is to house hack in mid to high price markets. Yep, low price markets are a waste of time as your capex typically doesn't scale linearly. BuzzTune, Oscar, thank you. I think I missed that super chat. Did I miss any others? No. Okay. Wait. No, Chester was the next one. Okay. Yeah, the more expensive the market, the more important house hacking becomes, right? Saving $1,200 a month in my house hack here had an impact. Getting paid $1,700 a month in the second duplex had an impact. House hacking in Gary, Indiana doesn't save you as much. Wayne Wong pirate. There you go. Money is Hemlane. Howdy, money. Is Hemlane a replacement for property management? So no. Hemlane can be used by property managers and it can be used by people who self-manage like me. What Hemlane does is makes managing the properties easier, right? I put the data in once, they put it on 30 platforms. I can step up the tier the month that I either need to use their handyman or I can use their leasing agent, step down the tier to, I just need to collect rents and list the properties myself. So in the future, if I switch to property management, I don't know that I would stay on Hemlane because what does the property manager use? They might not use my system. So it's not a replacement for it. It's for people who want to self-manage, and some property managers use it too. Adam, is it just me or is the sound fading in and out? That's probably a heater turning on. So it fades out, backs out. I'll turn that off. If you see me start to shiver, I just need more liquid. Because in Washington, it's like, what is it, 30 degrees now? 37 degrees? Just you, Adam. Nice. Atlas, howdy. Ryan, howdy. Didn't know backstory with Pace. Much more aligned to your personality, but sub 2 felt more accessible way to get involved. No, okay, let me finish what you're saying here. Down reserves with multiple properties for me. Pace is brilliant, and people who learn from him will do great. So that was the thing, was where I think I offended him by just saying I'm different than him and the people who do what he does. I don't want a big portfolio. I don't want all my properties are from the MLS. All my deals have conventional lending or the one I purchased cash. Just I think in the meeting I was just saying like Zuber does it one way, Lumberjack does it one way, you do it one way, I do it different. And that's okay. I think Ryan, watch as many of the people who have done what you want to do, reached financial freedom, made work optional. Take something from Pace that you learn, take something from me, put it together. Take something from Zuber and Matt, right? That's I don't know that there's any one of us that I would watch and do everything they did, right? Patrick, in the past, you've said that there are several CDL related jobs that aren't driving. I work in IT and I'm looking for a new job. Any ideas of higher paying IT jobs in your former industry? So I ran a nonprofit. I founded it called TPS, Transportation Placement Services. Found people jobs in transportation that don't even need a CDL. That was the point of it. So Werner, with the number of trucks they have, the freight that they move, the countries they deliver in, has a bigger IT department than the state of Washington does. Schneider, Swift, there's tons of companies that have IT departments. So there's tons of jobs there. But what you're talking about is if you get your CDL, there are city jobs, county jobs, where having a CDL is related. You can work for the water department and you get bumped up in pay because you might be the one who can move the equipment trailer. There's a ton of jobs where CDL opens the door, but there's a ton of jobs in transportation that don't need a CDL that hardly anybody applies for. Because if you get an IT job, you talk about all of these online businesses, Amazon, PayPal, right? We can get an IT job. The logistics required for a transportation company makes their IT department and their HR department bigger than most other industries, entire companies that are designed to do IT. So there's a lot to look at there. And if you actually just in Washington State call commercial driver school, they still have the nonprofit. I gave it to them when I left, and they will help you find a job. It helps them maintain relationships with local trucking companies, so they get a benefit from it without charging you anything. That's why I founded a nonprofit. I'm not stupid. I wasn't just doing it to be nice. I was doing it because the school benefited from it, and I got to spend every day helping people find a better job. Chester, I keep missing the exclamation point and hitting the at. That's why I took that last message back. Sure, no, like Atlas right there with that missing message. You're just doing it to make me lose sleep. You know that I get too much rest as a retired person, and you just don't want me to. Dennis, my family is so big we don't fit in any local multifamily properties, but so house with ADU, you can buy two 7-bedroom houses. One a seven, one a four. But I've seen a couple of properties with multiple houses on the property that really the only way we could house hack. Now, the really cool thing with that, Dennis, is if you do the house and there's multiple houses on one property, that is true single family lending. So if you have 2 units and they touch, it's duplex, and now it's small multifamily, 5% down, a little bump up in interest rate because it's multifamily now. If you take those 2 units and you separate them into 2 houses, same size, but they can be even bigger, 3.3% down conventional on your first one if you haven't owned in 3 years, 5% down if you already have a loan, but the interest rate will be that lower because if you buy a house, you get the lowest best interest rate owner occupied single family house. Buy a house with an ADU, best interest rate owner occupied low down. Now you put them together, it goes up about a half a point. So the house with ADU is the often missed asset. It's my best performing asset. It's my triplex, and it was a house with an ADU. I'm leaning towards just using the VA loan to get into another house, lowering my mortgage payment, and then saving for down payment out of state rentals. Yeah, so continue to do the live in, turn into a rental if they make sense in your area, and then out of state makes sense. Keep the bots out, huh? Look at it. Freegan Dave. I want to say it like friggin'. Freegan Dave. Howdy. Bots are a plague across all channels that don't have subscriber mode cut in. There you go. Just subscribers. Fair enough. Michelle, Laura, thank you. Thank you for that. RE Travel. Howdy. Howdy? How do you handle a tenant who complains about another tenant not recycling properly and having to pick up their trash? Send pictures of the trash. Tell your tenant not to clean up after the other tenant, and then say it's a lease violation and serve them with it as a start to an eviction unless it's fixed. That's how I would handle a messy yard. That is, I've actually sent that letter a few times. You take the pictures, don't have your tenant. You'll cause a problem between them, or have your handyman take the picture. Tenant complaining about another one recycling. Call the recycle police. I don't care. What have my kids ever done for me? I'm not trying to leave the world a better place. Kidding. I think. Yeah, it's unless they're a police officer, it's not their job to correct people for not recycling. Now, if it's a dumpster and they fill the dumpster with recycle, you can actually then have a problem, but it depends on your place and if it's causing that kind of problem. So the trash thing, though, it's easy solution. You or your handyman take pictures, send a letter. If this happens, I'm going to start the eviction process because this is a lease violation because in your lease, you have it, keep it neat and orderly. And if you don't, you should. Liz, howdy. How can someone make sure their rental is recession proof? Great question, because not all rentals are recession proof. The way I do it is I talk about it as a form of diversification. The first one, I have 2 forms that help with the recession. And then there's a third that I don't usually say, but it's how I've recession proofed it. Recession resistant. Like, did you know you can't call it a bulletproof vest because it is not proof? Ironically, it stops more bullets than knives, the way Kevlar works. Ask me how I know that. So, actually, don't ask me. I can't say that here. I don't want to say that here. My voice goes, nope, we're not talking about that. First, I make sure that my rentals are spread out, right? I want more than 10 miles apart, close to several economic drivers, right? So it's not just by Boeing where they can have a thing, or the not just by the base where a BRAC meeting can happen and the base goes away, or just by the port where they can go on strike. I'm around the base, the port, the college, the hospital, Boeing, Amazon, Costco, trucking companies, whatever sources of tenants are, there's many of them because different sectors hit recessions at different times. So I can lose some of my tenants, or some of my tenants might lose their job. Second, I diversify the tenant type. I don't want 100% military or 100% Section 8 or 100% working retired. I do about a third of each. It's not a perfect balance. It's somewhere in there. I think right now my next goal is to have another Section 8 tenant But if a qualified tenant applies that isn't, I won't get my goal. Uh, so three types of tenants, right? Section 8, during a recession, there's going to be more people that qualify, more vouchers hunting for a place, more demand for your rentals. So those are the two ways I talk about diversifying my properties: location and the area around it, and the type of tenants. But the third one is I specifically target recession resistant properties. I do not want Class A or luxury. That's the one asset class where rents have ever gone down since 1940 when we started tracking the data. In 2009, luxury rentals went down to where it looks like rents went down. But in 2009, 10, and 11, rental demand, because of the millions of foreclosures, went up for Class C rentals. So I don't want Class B. I don't want somebody like right now, let's say you have a Class B or a Class A property in my area would rent for $3,000 or $4,000 for one unit. And somebody loses their $150,000 IT job. It's not easy to go find another one exactly. And unemployment doesn't cover your bills. There's a cap to what unemployment will do. But I take my local school teacher that makes 85,000 a year. It's actually one of my tenants and what she makes, and she gets laid off for a month or two. Unemployment can cover the rent, and finding another job that makes 50 to $80,000 a year is a lot easier than go to the CDL school and start making more than she was making as a teacher. That's my recession resistant strategy. Location of properties close to several economic drivers, not just one, and not just one industry, right? I wouldn't want to be next to all the trucking companies, Swift, Warner, Schneider, and all of them right there in one spot, because transportation can take the hit all at the same time. But if there's a trucking company at the college, port, I'm good there. And then the second is diversify your tenant types. Section 8 might have more demand. Retired people aren't going to be hit by a recession as hard as somebody who gets laid off. And the military, you have due to not economic, what is it, the term for elect politicians? You have a Republican or you have a Democrat. One of them wants to grow the military, wants to shrink it. You have all your different sectors get hit at different times. So diversify that so you're not hit all at once. And then that's why I target Class C properties. More demand in economic challenge times. Class A and B renters can move to C, so increases demand. Massive foreclosures, increased demand on rentals. Like I always want to be the decent human that says, I don't want there to be a recession. But do you understand how much recessions make me money? Like, yeah, it sucks. So I don't want there to be a recession, but I'm planning on if one happens, I'm not hurt. Jason Jones, any tips on creative financing? Yes, don't do it. People call it creative financing. There's so many ways to buy a property. You can save up money and buy it all cash. That's creative. You can find a seller like the Cody and Christian multifamily strategies way, where you build a relationship to learn from them. And eventually, if they offload properties, you seller finance from them, sometimes with no money down, and 6 months with no payments to get it stabilized, and all of these creative things you can do. I'm the lazy investor. And while those guys exist and they do their thing, and that's why I say we have this community of everybody who does different things, and you can take something from each one. I'm a fan of make a 10-year plan where you're going to buy a property every 2 years. It'll speed up towards the end because of the income snowball. Save a down payment, buy a property. Save a down payment, buy a property. Stupid, slow, not sexy, real boring, not exciting. Everything from the MLS. Uh, as long as it's positive cash flow and a better return than the average in your area, right? So if average in your area is 2%, look for a 4%. If average is 20%, look for a 23%, right? Get better than the average. That's the goal to stop you from getting a bad deal. But even if you're in a place that only gets, let's say you're in San Diego and every return is -3%. Maybe you don't buy and you go to distance. But if you can house hack a small multifamily and you live there and you're not paying a lot to live there. I paid $300 a month to live in my duplex. That's such a high cost of living area that everybody goes, oh, rents only went up like 5% because of California's rent control. Well, yeah, 5% of $5,000 a month per unit is a lot more than 20% of $1,000 a unit. To do the math on that to see if that's even accurate. But the higher the cost of living area, the more those percentile increases impact you. So yeah, in San Diego, I'd be looking for a 1 or 2% positive cash flow, buying it all day long. Because in 2 or 3 years, 1 or 2% increases in your net is a much larger number than getting a 20% yield that increases in an area with no appreciation, with no rent growth. I'm a fan of high cost of living. Creative financing. Yeah, it's possible. But are you creating another job? That's if you're doing seller financing, sending mailers, doing driving for dollars, developing relationships with owners, your job is buying real estate. I was working full time raising 3 kids, 15 minutes a day. I look at deals. I got really good at the skill. I got so good at the skill that during the members only, it takes 45 minutes to explain what I did in every 90 seconds. But it takes 45 minutes to break it down. That's how much of the skill was involved in that minute and a half that I took. And I looked at each deal. For 15 minutes, I'd look at, where's that? Is that 10 deals? Minute and a half each. Words are hard, so is math. You don't need to know how to do math to do real estate. You need to figure out one equation that you run so much that you don't do it till you get it right. You do it till you can't get it wrong. And then you realize that math is this much of the equation. So creative financing would have been a job to me. It's too much work for most people to do what I do, where I reach out to a lender and I get pre-qualified for an amount. In the beginning, and it was an amount. Second, it's pre-qualified for whatever I have the down payment for once you have the rental income on your tax returns. But I'm finding the deals and I send off a letter of pre-qualification from the lender for every offer that I make. So that takes work, a couple emails. And then if I go under contract, I reach out to 3 other lenders really quick. This is my creative strategy. It's conventional loans, but I reach out to 3 other lenders and I say, here's what my lender is offering me on this property that I am buying. If you want to get my business, you have to beat this by a recognizable percentage of an increase. You can't just match it. So if they can beat it, then I go back to the first lender and I say, Fairway Mortgage offered me 2% less than you and half the price to buy the rates down. Can you match it? You don't have to beat it. It'd be great if you did, but if you match this, you keep my business. And the first 3 loans, Wells Fargo kept my business. The next 3 loans and all of the refinances, Fairway got it. Back and forth. That's too much work for some people. So when it comes to creative financing, do you want to create another job or do you want to make it easy to work? Because it's never going to be easy, but you want to make it easy enough to where you want to continue to add rentals to your portfolio. Chester, YouTube is seriously struggling with bots because of how quick and easy it is for software developers to spin them up. Yep. Angel R, do your fourplexes perform better than your two? So I have one fourplex, a bunch of duplexes, and one triplex. The triplex performs the best out of all of them, but I think it was, again, a poorly marketed deal because hardly anybody was looking for a house with ADU. I had no competition. Um, the duplexes and the fourplex cash flow about the same, a little more than $1,000 a unit. The fourplex has appreciated more, partly because that area has gotten a lot better, and the demand for small multifamily, specifically side by side fourplexes, not the squares, has appreciated so much that it's appreciated the most in comparison, like what do you call it, per capita, right? So in the ratio, the duplexes have doubled in value, maybe a little more. The fourplex, in somewhat of a shorter time period, has close to tripled, but the cash flow is about the same. I make so let me see. It's just under 8,000 a month coming in, 29, 3,050 mortgage now. And I set aside, so yeah, I'm making basically $1,000 a unit there. And that's what my duplexes almost all make. Do I have one that's worse? No, I have one that's doing really good. I guess one duplex is doing good too. Yeah. But that's refinanced to a 3% rate, added uh 2 bedrooms, turned 2 dens into bedrooms. So it's just a ridiculous return. So that's deal specific. Since 2020, my goal has been to find a fourplex that costed at least $1 million to buy. That was my goal. But in 2021, I found a duplex that made sense. And in 2023, I found a duplex that made sense. So I have a goal of a fourplex. It's the one I would like, but I buy the deals that come along that make the most sense. So do I have a preference? Yes. But which one do I find first? Jump on it. Jason, do you ever make two different offers on houses, like a conventional and a seller financing, almost consistently every time? Yes. So multiple offers. I don't, I've done I've done escalation clauses, not a fan too much. Too easy to be defrauded there. Uh, I've done them. I got one with one. And yes, here's the offer, seller financed. Here's the question that I think I learned from the lumberjack landlord of what are the three most important things to the seller to find out? Oh, do you need a place to stay for 3 months and do a $20,000 holdback and that stays with title until you move out? Then you get that last 20 grand or something like that. So yeah, I've done several offers based on what the needs of the seller were. So absolutely, it seems like a lot of work, but it's not. Atlas, howdy. Are you introducing your next generation to this mess? I am that generation 20 years later and have learned a great deal over the years. Corrected missing message. Thanks. I have to lose less sleep tonight. So I am interacting with a lot of younger people to get them into real estate. It's hard to find people my age anyway. So there's not many of us left, Frank. Uh, Never complain about getting old. Not everybody gets to. Yes, I'm trying to pass it on to the next generation. My kids aren't too interested. My son is looking at buying his first duplex next year. And my daughters currently don't show any interest. Uh, my my actual exit strategy involves somebody who is exactly 20 years younger than me. I think he's exactly 20 years. So I met him when he was 30. I'm 50. And he's growing a real estate portfolio. So the goal is that when he's 50, I'm 70. Most of my properties are down to where they only have a little bit of debt left. So I'll sell one, pay off probably all the debt, then seller finance the entire package to him on a 30-year note, fixed rate interest, gets me the payments I want for 30 years. I'll be 70. I'll probably live to 100. I'll probably save a lot of the money over the time. And if I live past 100, I ain't going to need money to spend. So that's my strategy is find somebody 20 years younger than me. And right when they're 50, I'll be ready to sell or finance the whole package to them. Ben, thanks for doing this video topic. Thank you. Hopefully that means it was one of your questions to ask about the second house hack. That's where this came from. That's where a lot of the videos come from is I've got some videos I want to make. Can I overshare this in the video? I have videos I want to make that nobody wants to care about. I want to make how, as a single parent, you keep custody of your kids. It's not a real estate thing because I've done it in California and Washington. So the two states where over 90% of the time it goes to the mother, I was able to keep custody. So I'm not going to say how a single dad can keep it. I'm saying how which parent can keep it because it doesn't matter your gender to keep the custody. It's not a thing. I want to make certain videos on politics. Nobody cares. So when people ask questions, I go, oh, this is what people want to hear. So I appreciate the questions that then lead to a video. Ricky, can you explain how DTI works as you scale your portfolio? Most folks get stuck at their first house hack if they're living there and they don't have their rent used as net income due to no 2-year history. So that's where a little while ago, so probably 30 minutes ago, I mentioned a lot of people think of house hacking, they think of renting out rooms. A duplex, a house with an ADU, a fourplex, right? There is rent that goes on your tax returns. If you want to fix your debt to income ratio with rental income and you rent a room out to somebody, have a lease, claim the income on your taxes. You might not get the depreciation benefit and you might have to pay some taxes on that rental income. I haven't seen that happen. Uh, but rental income on your 2 years of tax returns, it doesn't go, you've had a rental for 2 years. It says you have had rental income on 2 years of taxes. Have a lease to back it up, have deposit slips to show to the lenders that this is a real thing, claim it on your taxes. That gets you around the debt to income ratio. So, as uncomfortable as it might be to actually pay some taxes, if you had to, that's the way around it. But once you have the 2 years of history, debt to income ratio becomes almost immediately I want to say pointless because it's a factor for certain things like the question earlier with creative financing. Sometimes it is 50, 40, 10, where you borrow 50% from a lender because 50% loan to value or less is the best interest rate. Then the seller carries 40% and you put down 10%. So you have some skin in the game. So they have to have enough equity. Have to work with somebody like Fairway more not Fairway, Convoy Home Loans or Velocity Mortgage because they offer the 50, 40, 10 strategy. Uh, my chat moved, sorry. So there's creative ways to do financing. There's creative ways to do house hacking. But the most important thing, and I've got a tenant who pays in cash. I've got two now. Only one of them is covered in glitter. And every time that I'm paid, I send an email. Today I received 2350 from you or their name or whatever, right? So I say it. And they ask me, why do you send an email? I say, well, first, it lets us know your rent was paid and everything's good. But two, I'm going to claim this on my taxes. And this is our proof if I ever get audited that you have a receipt. It's an electronic receipt, but emails are admissible in court. And that tenant goes, oh, sure, you claim my cash on taxes. And I'm like, yeah, how do you think I bought the next rental? Like depreciation shows I don't have to pay any tax on the income on this, any taxes on this income. And it lets me buy the next place. That tenant, I guarantee he still thinks I'm just pocketing the money and not claiming it on my taxes, which while prison is the ultimate house hack, it is not my chosen form of retirement. Ryan, piggybacking question, what precaution strategies would you take in the instance of declining prices in an underwater mortgage in that case? I've had that. I was stuck with the property. So declining prices, as investors, most of us hope for that. That would be a good thing. I can go then to the county tax assessor and argue my taxes down. But show me the chart that shows declining rents. That's what can hurt you. I don't recycle capital. I've never done a home equity line of credit, never done a cash out refinance. Haven't so far sold for a 1031 or even sold to use the IRS 121 rule yet. Count the days though. And so my equity means nothing to me. It's nice. It's there. It's a fictitious number on a spreadsheet, right? $3 million I can walk away with if I wanted to. Uh, but $21,000 in profit every month, that's more important to me than $3 million. I know people, that's a stupid way to look at it. No, it's I can do anything I want every single day, and it only gets better way to look at it. So I spend around $5,000 a month to live kind of the life I want, right? I'm not going to Switzerland or Sweden or whichever one of them is expensive. I'm going to Portugal. I'm going to Thailand. I'm going to Colombia. I'm going to places where the dollar has a good value. I'm going to Thailand where I can scuba dive. 3 full day dives with a provided lunch for $24. Like all day long, you'll catch me there. I gotta go back. Went diving recently. Uh, Washington is dry suit. Washington is it's cold to get in. It's fine when you're in. It's cold to get out. I want to go to the place where you don't need even a wetsuit and there aren't 15-foot octopus trying to eat you. So underwater mortgage, not too worried about it. Rent's going down. So rough math, 35,000 a month coming in rents, 5,000 set aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, about 9,000 a month going into mortgage and principal pay down, principal interest, taxes, and insurance, $21,000 a month coming to me that I haven't had to pay taxes on yet because of levered depreciation. So if rents went down 50%, so take the 35,000, cut that in half. Hey Siri, what's 35 divided by 2? So 17,500. So if rents went down half, I would still have the 9,000 for mortgages, and I would have 8,500 for me and setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. So rents can go down 50%. I still don't have to go back to work. Rents have never once gone down market wide since we started tracking the data in 1940, right? I say that like it's a mantra because you can Google the information yourself. I'm in Class C property, so even in down economic times, rental demand goes up. Rents can flatline for a period of time. I'm okay with that. I've invested and didn't retire until I could see rents drop by 50% and still not have to go back to work. So that's how I would some, precautions or strategy against declining prices would be great because my taxes would go down. My um, rents wouldn't. In 2009, 10, and 11, rents went up in Class C properties. Gavin, what time is it? Five. Oh, we had an hour to do the thing. We missed it by 3 super chats. So the next time I do a live, I'm going to do the goal where if we get to 10 super chats, I'm going to give away an Audible book to, at that point in the chat, I will ask for a number between 1 and 100. I'll roll the 100-sided Dungeons and Dragons math rocks, pick a number, and give it away. Today, since we didn't hit the goal, it's only going to go to the 7 people who won the super chat. So I'm going to roll. There are 7 super chats. I will roll. I'll remember the name. I'll reach out to the winner. And so I have an 8-sided dice here. Where's the 8-sided? Because that's the closest way to do 7. That's 10. Math rocks are hard. Here we go. So I'm going to spin this. And it will be in the order that the super chats came in. So still giving away a super Audible book, even though we didn't hit the goal within an hour. That's okay. It's my first time doing the goal thing. Hilarious. They wait 2 years, then it counts. And some will look at it at 1 year on a duplex for the rental income on the other side. So talk to the lenders too. This keeps rents 85 to 90% of market value. This keeps your reserves high enough to handle bumps, but low enough to encourage long-term tenants to stay. That's a brilliant statement. Everybody should like copy and paste that or write it down somewhere. Did I miss a Liz thing? That must have missed a Liz thing. Okay. On the 8-sided. 5. So I will look at the super chats. Whoever was the 5th one. We'll have to do a start from the top. It's Michelle, Jason, Chester, Frank, Wendy. Wendy, my email's in the chat. You won the Audible book. Again, it can be any book you want. It'd be kind of cool if it was finance related. Let me see, where was I at here? 7 Days Friends, Keeping You Poor. That was a very well done video. Thank you. Thank you very much, Atlas. I appreciate it. Prison is the ultimate house hack. It's food, electricity, sometimes internet access, like high school, all the sex you don't want. Like, not my retirement plan, but the ultimate house hack. Dennis was about to say South Carolina in summer was just a bathing suit to scuba, but there are gators. Yeah, that's the thing that Thailand has, is nothing trying to unalive you. Well, there's no eat you sharks. There's whale sharks that could possibly accidentally swallow you. The one I saw the last time was like 35 feet long, and I didn't know that it was there until I felt the water move, and I was like, "Why is everybody staring at me?" But they weren't. Yeah, great. You're not supposed to touch the whale sharks either. What do you do when it comes up to you and it just pushes against you over and over? No teeth on a whale shark, by the way. Dang it, you activated your Siri. Nice. Our voices must be a little similar. Oh, Chester, you did too? Didn't see that. Uh-oh. I have a question about property taxes in Washington State. Is there a owner-occupied reduction for the taxes, or is it only for senior citizens? No. There's no reduction for living there for taxes, and I don't think there is one for senior citizens that I've heard of. There is if you're 100% service-connected disability veteran, which I am not, you get to have, I think it's 0 tax on your primary, which would probably break down if you were in a duplex, 50%, 25% on a fourplex. Cool. Is Wendy still here? Because that was a while ago. I will just mention her in a couple of videos until she says, okay, cool. The live stream lasts as long as the questions do. We're at about an hour and 20 minutes. So this could be the shortest live stream in the history of live streams. Surf Marco. Howdy. Good to see you here. And just so everybody knows, I see that a few of us are members here. Next Tuesday, which I should probably know the date of that, but next Tuesday, the 17th, there is a members only right after the live. So 6 o'clock next Tuesday, we will look at deals. Surf Marco, what payment methods do you accept from your tenants? Trying to think if there's one I don't take. So I'm not set up to take credit cards. I think there's a way through Hemlane to set it up where you can take credit cards. I'm not set up to do that. I Three things matter to me when I collect rents. The first is that it's easy on the tenant. And I like to limit tenant turnover, and happy tenants are less likely to move. They don't trash your place. So one of the strategies with the binder is to keep your tenants happy. So I will take Cash App, Venmo, Apple Pay, Google Pay, which kind of went away, PayPal, ACH, Zelle, check, cash. So the first thing, want it to be easy for the tenant. Second thing, I want it to leave a paper trail, right? That can be an electronic check as a paper trail. The transaction on Venmo, that's a paper trail. Usually one of the things Surf Marco that's hard is some of those, if the tenant clicks business and wants business protection, like they can cancel it at a future date, then there's a fee. So I make sure the tenants know if there's any fees, you pay them, or you find a way to pay that doesn't have it. ACH, Zelle, no payment there. Check, not payment, surcharge for it. So second thing is paper trail. Third thing is I want it to save me a trip to the bank. So the cash is a bit of an irritation because every now and then I will take a trip to the bank. Or every now and then you hire somebody that wants to be paid in cash because if it's $600 or less for a handyman to empty out a place or cut care out the carpet or something, and that's all you're doing with that person that entire year, pay them in cash, whatever. But cash it gets deposited at some point. It is fun and probably going to get me audited someday. But it's 4 or 5 months sometimes like, oh, I should probably go and put this in the bank. And I'm like, oh, let me lay this on the floor first and take a picture of my FU money. There's literally on Facebook some pictures of my FU money just laid out. I think it was like 17 grand that I was going to deposit that day. Stupid problems to have. With cash, I send an email. The day I receive the cash, I have received this amount for your rent. So that's my paper trail. Uh, the checks I deposit with an app. Section 8 pays with ACH. Most of my tenants pay with Zelle. Uh, yeah, there you go. Gavin, Rob, howdy. Any help getting owners of the Class C duplex next door to do better, given that we live in a B plus neighborhood? My house hack two fam is a solid B. Getting the owners of the Class C duplex next door to do better. So maybe it's messy, they don't mow their lawn. Yeah, you, neighbors are sometimes the biggest challenge. And when owning real estate or living anywhere, uh, one of the things that I don't often talk about as my criteria for rentals. Now, first off, Gavin, you're in a house hack, B plus neighborhood. Hopefully there's no HOA. But if there is, that'd be who I would address it through. You can contact the city and send pictures. Cities can reach out sometimes if they're within city limits and say, fix these problems. Sometimes the cities just don't care. Uh, you're in given the owners for Class A, live in a B plus neighborhood. My house hack two fam is a solid B. So you're house hacking. You're not there forever. You're there for now. So unless it actually impacts negatively your rent or your ability to collect rent, that's when I would reach out to the city. If it's large trees that could fall and hit your property, send a registered letter saying this tree is an issue. Uh, and if it hits my house, Your insurance is liable, not mine, because if you haven't sent that, your insurance has to take care of trees that hit your house, even from another property. Uh, Public shaming on Facebook. I'm absolute redneck though. I would do all kinds of illegal things I couldn't say on YouTube. So I reserve those for the course content. Dan, can you explain why duplex made sense versus single family house when you started? Absolutely. Single family house in 2013 in my market, $300,000. Duplex in my market, 2013 when I started, $300,000. Single family house rent, 1,500 bucks, 1,400 bucks. Duplex rent, 1,400 bucks each side. Almost the same price for half the rent. So let's look at currently today's market in my area. A duplex in Spanaway, Washington, probably going to cost you $600,000. Each side is going to rent out for $2,000. So it's not the 1% rule. You're going to barely cash flow. So you're going to have to hunt to find a deal, find a 550 that rents for 2,200 or something, right? Not going to be easy to find the deal, or everyone would buy them. That's why it's never easy to buy rentals ever. So single family house in Spanaway, Washington, probably $500,000 that would rent for $2,000. It's almost the same numbers, just bigger. You're going to get close to twice the rent for almost the same price. The scale changed a little around 2020 when YouTube University started flooding the market with demand for small multifamily. Enough people realized, hey, these assets actually cash flow. So single family houses went up 90% from 2013, and duplexes went up 100%. Right? So it's still not enough to where a single family house would cash flow. So that's why when I started looking, my mortgage would be the payment. That's not cash flow because you got to set aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. Versus my mortgage is one side of the duplex payment. The other side isn't profit because I got to set aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, but it's two-thirds profit, right? It's a lot of profit. So I hope that makes sense. And it's not everywhere. It's not that way everywhere, right? I've got a friend, Shelly. She lives in Washington, had a house in Washington. I think she sold and tried to do a reverse 1031 to buy in Ohio, messed up the timeline, ended up paying taxes. But in Ohio, she's buying single family houses because in that market, they make sense. So find the investors that are investing in your area, do a rent study, do a price comparison study, learn your market for like 60 to 90 days, like Zuber says, from one rental at a time. Learn that market and then figure out which asset class performs the best. And just like Zuber, I would totally buy a single family house or a fourplex. Like I was hunting for a fourplex for the last almost 5 years, and I bought two duplexes and a triplex. In 5 years, I bought a triplex and two duplexes. So yeah, I'm not in growth mode. I'm not trying to add these. These are just, yeah, I got the money. I should buy that one. That one looks like a good deal. Um, which one has the best yield? And math is part of the equation because then it's what's the area like for crime, right? I don't want to own in Spanaway, Washington, but it's survivable, right? Michelle's got a couple there too. So um, I don't want to own near McKinley in Tacoma. I don't want to own near 301 T Street in Tumwater. Like I know the areas where the crime's not good enough. We looked at one the other day for Chester, and the flood zone basically blew up the deal, right? So math is part of it, but what else can happen that can make it a good or a bad deal? That all happens after we get away from math. Yeah, and Dan, and most of my area single family house does not cash flow. Most of us are not in California, do not rely on appreciation like the larger trousers talking heads. Yeah, so I've never invested for appreciation. I've invested for increased cash flow from a high cost of living area. But most of the to be transparent, I know one, two investors total that invest the way I do. Most invest to sell for 1031, cash out refinance, or like I know some investors who are just starting, so I'm not counting them, but most of them are then also looking at, oh, if my appreciation goes up, I might take some equity and go buy something else, right? I've never done that. Um, Interesting. Summertime Santa. Howdy. You're going to be busy soon. I noticed the VA disability rating as well. You said that it's only 100 percenters, but you can also apply for it if you're 61 or older. Nice. Did not know that. I am not 61 yet, although my face is starting to look like it. Dan, how would I calculate the rental viability before purchase if I plan to convert a detached garage to a one bedroom, one rental, rent both the house and the garage? Fairly easy. So when I look at a property, so I buy the duplex in 20 at the end of 2021. No, I buy a triplex. It's got a house and a duplex. The rental viability. The house, while it's on the same property, would rent like a true single family because it has its own fenced yard, its own parking, its own garage, completely separate from the duplex. And unless it's so obvious because it's got the same paint scheme, they wouldn't know they're on the same property. How does a single family house rent? Which tends to be about, I don't even want to say a percent, like 0.5% more than what a duplex of the same size would rent for. So then I look at the duplex. I looked at those as if they were rented out at about 5 to 10% below area average rents. What would they get? Not what their current leases were, not whether there were tenants in place or not. It's That's how I looked at it to compare the rents. So go on apartments.com, Craigslist, Zillow, and look for all the one bedroom rentals that you can find and see how many of them are ADU, DADU, JADU, or any of those things, whether it's attached or detached. What are they renting for? And are they similar? Meaning, is it one building and you have to come in like up the stairs to the one section? Is it above the garage? Is it, whatever the one you're looking at, how many like that are there? And a lot of times people will struggle to find, let me see if I can do this here. Some people will find it's really hard to find comparables in your area. So let me share my screen. Let's say you invest near Tacoma, Washington, right? Not in Tacoma, not inside the city limits of Tacoma, because you're not stupid. Not talking about you, Curtis. That was a mistake. Or you did it before they put in the stupid laws. But let's say you're investing out here in Parkland, in Summit, Midland area, and you want to go, how much does a single bedroom rental rent for here? So you'll look it up right here, right? But then you think, okay, so this is where the port is. This is where JBLM, the base is, Fort Lewis, right here. So you're looking in this area. I would draw a circle that's about the same distance from the port and the base and go, okay, along this diagonal line right here, because it's the same commute to the two local closest big work areas. What do those rent for? That tells you what it's going to rent for. During your inspection, you'll get a kind of an idea of how much work it's going to take to make that happen. That's how I would do a rent study. And so if you're in an area and you're like 30 minutes out from the city, you can just draw a circle all the way around the city. And then that commuting distance from the city, how much are those rentals for? That way, if you don't have very many to choose from in your area, you get a bigger what do you call it? Control group to get your information from. Rental viability. And the viability, as Gavin breaks down here, so down payment, closing costs, garage unit, cost to acquire. So yeah, how much is it going to cost to make the conversion for you? Also, I would contact, it's a lot easier depending on where you live, because recently there was a law passed. Now, if it's federal, I know it's hitting Washington State, where basically the cities can't say no to an ADU. They can restrict it and do different things, but they basically have to say nowhere is allowed to be zoned single family residence. It has to be ADU permissible. But you have to have the setbacks for it, and it has to be in the direction from the street. Like there's all these other things they can restrict you on, but they're not supposed to. So how much is it going to cost? You're going to contact several contractors. What's this municipality like to work with? How long do you think permits will take from a couple different sources, especially sources who don't think they're going to get the work because they're more likely to be a little more honest. It's when somebody thinks, oh, I get the work if I tell them it's easy. Oh, probably 2 months, and there you are 10 months in. Because before you get it done, you have a cost of holding, right? You're paying the payment on the bigger property without having it rented out. And when you do the rent study, you can go to Rentometer, look up the address, look for the right number of bedroom counts. You can go to fair market rents to see what the housing authority will pay, and they do single family. They rent by the room. They do single bedroom, they do double. So you can see the prices for all of those. But then you want to go to Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, Zillow, apartments, and for at least 2 weeks watch the rents to get a good feel for what is, because Rentometer, I can see it being off up to 30%. But what rentals go on, stay on for a long time, and then a month later come down. What rentals go on, disappear, come back $500 more because they had too much demand, right? You can't do a snapshot and understand that. You have to watch for a couple of weeks. Don't sell. Howdy. Good advice. Can use a 1031 for a rental home with an ADU to buy a single family house with a detached garage. I plan to build another ADU on the single family. Plan to build another ADU on the single. So it's like for like. You can do it. 1031 doesn't work if it's been owner occupied. Remember that you would use the IRS 121 rule. It's actually better than 1031 up to a point. Uh, can you use a 1031 to buy and then build? Talk to not only a tax pro, but that third party that runs the 1031 to make sure what you're trying to do would work. And you can contact them and find that out because each state's going to be different on that. Martin Properties. Howdy, stranger. Long time no see. Should be ready to buy again next summer. Time to start looking again. Totally agree. And I'm interested with 3 bedroom rents in Thurston County where your rental is when you move out next year into your new house hack and you rent it out. What are those numbers going to look like? All night ahead. Are you guys still going? Yes, they are. Did it not show my screen when I showed the map? No. Okay, I'll give it another couple minutes for questions. I hope everybody is set to have a holiday season full of amazing. We say Merry Christmas at my place, which is awesome for a bunch of atheists. There is never enough reasons to celebrate, and it is okay for life to be fun. Yep. Should should I text all nighter hider and say, hey, we stopped about an hour ago? What are you talking about? Gavin, Wealth Building Journey. Any idea how recent the data in Rentcast is? No clue. So lagging behind market in my area. So I find that the more dramatic an increase or decrease in rents or market prices is, the further off Rentometer will be. Uh, there was a long time where Rentometer would work fine because rents were going up pretty slow and steady, 5% every 2 years or so 3% or so a year. And then in 2020, we saw a little bit of flatline, and then we saw the spiky 30% uh, just bouncing all over. And Rentometer fell way behind on what people were actually getting. Merry Christmas and happy awesomeness. Nice. Cool. So if we remember, I have to write down the name, Wendy, on the book. Um, I'm trying to read the name. Coaster 96. Coaster. Would you be willing to share a blank copy of your rental agreement you use so we can build our own? Kinda. They're really state specific, and I've had trouble. I've tried to send mine to a few people, and because I use a Mac, don't have Word documents, it gets messed up in the sending. BiggerPockets Pro has a lease for each state. Each state usually has a rent, what do you call it? Landlord tenant resource page on their state website that has current leases. Then whatever lease you get, I would take it to an attorney and ask, you're the attorney that's going to work in this district that would do the eviction with me. Oh no, it says reload. Are we still here? Guess we'll see in a minute. Maybe my internet's messed up. No, it's still going. Okay. It's time for a new computer because I do like to buy things. Uh, my lease probably won't do you good, and I would probably mess it up if I sent it to you. Jason Pritchard also has a template. I'll try to find a blank. There you go. That would be good. Summertime Santa. I'll be picking up a house in Bremerton, so maybe we'll bump into each other every once in a while. Yeah, I do. So I take I walk down to the foot ferry and I go over to Bremerton. There is, I guess I would call it a sports bar there that has a really good menu. And I'm not a fan of Anthony's, but it's there too. So, but there's a really good gaming store, not too far. I wish I knew the name of it. I would give them a shout out right there. So I'm in Bremerton. I don't know, it's every week, every other week or so. Go have lunch. I'm sure I will see you around. There's also the Tacoma FI local Facebook group. We meet once a month. We're not meeting for December for the holidays, but every month they get together. Usually it's like Cooper's in the Ruston area, so it's across the Narrows Bridge, but it's still not too far away. Cool. You have to let me know how the purchase in Bremerton goes. I hope everybody has an evening full of amazing. I have videos coming out later this week on, let me see what I've got. The problem is I have too many I want to do, so, but these are the ones I'm probably going to get to this week. How I got ready to retire. I want to make a standalone video about the mistake my investor friends make. And I might do that with them so that they're there just to defend themselves. Zuber, the lumberjack landlord, like all my investor friends, except for Millennium Mike, I haven't heard him do it, make the same mistake. And it's not a mistake that's costing him any money. It's a mistake that might be costing you money. Uh, I want to do a rebuttal. So recently I did a video, stocks versus real estate. And the way YouTube works is it puts out the information and it says, these are the people who watch your content. They have notifications turned on. And then your Dion Talk Financial Freedom. Here's a group of people who watch financial freedom videos. You make a lot of real estate content. Here's the people who watch real estate. And then it goes, okay, those people are good. Let's try another ring of people if they like this video. Because if you guys don't hit the like button, don't watch very long, that's not a good video. So it doesn't get shared anymore. But the stocks versus real estate, it's got like 5,000 views. So it's doing pretty decent. It shared it with a new ring of people who invest in stocks. Was like, this is kind of related to financial freedom, real estate. So I got a bunch of hate comments. And the ones that were just absolutely negative and added nothing, yeah, I'll take those down. But the ones that were like, oh, this is not a fair comparison, I want to make the video because I said I compared a levered property against stocks that aren't levered. Which, yeah, the most common way to invest in real estate is with 30-year fixed rate debt for residential properties. The most common way to invest in stocks is not to use margin and to just invest in stocks. So I kind of want to make a rebuttal to some of the comments that came at, like, I get in that video, I even say you shouldn't invest in real estate unless it excites you. And I shouldn't invest in stocks unless it excites me. Like, choose the one that matters to you. I didn't say one was better than the other. Uh, this video I haven't got figured out yet. The problem with retirement is that there are no weekends. Conversation recently with a friend who is also retired, and she said, "This sucks." Because normally I'd be like, "Okay, I could do all these things on Saturday or Sunday, but every day is off. So every day is Saturday or Sunday. So every day there's so much to do that she says I never get a day to just do nothing like I used to when I worked. Because every now and then I would just need a day to do nothing. I don't do that retirement. So I don't know if that's a whole video or not. I want to make a video on the best things I've ever purchased for myself. Think you can guess what those would be? Uh, oh, I don't know if I could do this or not. I want to make a video about Melody Wright, who I don't ever want to have on my channel. And I actually want to talk with Zuber about why everybody was upset that she was on the channel. Because he's like, oh, I want to get both perspectives. But me Zuber and Matt, we've spent the last couple of years saying, look, block out the crash bros. They're costing you money. They use the same thing. And Melody Wright has called 19 of the last 0 real estate crashes. I think I should make that standalone video. What are the questions you don't know to ask? Like a lot of times people keep asking questions, but there are some I wait for and I just never get. I want to explain the don't play chess with a seagull comment. I want to make the video. This is the real estate question I have never been able to answer for myself. So yeah, those will be the videos coming soon. Let me see if I have time for questions here. Always thank you. I think the more common investment is options, puts, and calls. I think the most common is dollar cost averaging into your retirement account. That most people don't even buy stocks, but options, puts, and calls. I think those are words that the most stock investors don't even know those terms. A really nice two-stage regulator for scuba. Yeah. Uh, okay. So apparently I need to make that because it's none of those. Never play chess with a pigeon. Never debate real estate with a crash bro. Ciao.